So we are discussing the finance bill today. So I want to start by dispelling one jumla which is being carried on since about 7-8 o'clock this morning, sir. So today the government has announced a cut in excise duties on petrol and diesel. Obviously, sir, with crude oil prices rising the way they are, with all the tension in West Asia, it was quite expected that, the prices of crude oil will go up, and they've gone up very highly, sir. Some ministers of this government since the morning, and I'm sure a lot of speakers today will also talk about how the Modi government is taking a hit to its own resources, to its own revenues, instead of increasing petrol and diesel prices. So I'll tell you why this is happening, sir. So this is happening because 4 major states are going into elections, sir. The only reason that this excise duty cut has been done today is because this government absolutely cannot raise fuel prices when 4 major states are going into elections. So if this government really cared about the welfare of people so much and on not burdening people with prices, so for the last 4 years, sir, the government was purchasing crude oil at extremely discounted prices. Below $60 per barrel, we were purchasing discounted crude from Russia, sir. So in these 4 years, this benefit of discounted crude oil purchased from Russia, not a single rupee was passed on to the consumer at the petrol and diesel pump. So for 4 years, we were buying discounted crude oil. The government was not incurring any additional. In fact, the government was saving money, but none of these savings were passed on to the consumers. Therefore, sir, when the Honorable Finance Minister replies, I only have one request from her. Will she give a commitment on the floor of this House that after 29th of April, when the voting is completed in all 4 states, the government will promise that it will not increase the petrol and diesel prices at fuel pumps even by 1 rupee. That is the commitment that the Finance Minister should give today, that this excise duty is permanent. We are not going to raise prices after 29th of April. They should do that. The problem, sir, is that this government does not think about people. They only think about elections. Why is one nation, one election such a bad idea? Because regular elections make them care a little bit about people, sir. The reason they want one nation, one election is that once the elections are done, for 5 years they can keep looting the people as much as they want without any checks and balances. So the finance bill, very surprisingly, and the budget, sir, entirely failed to grasp the winds of change that have been going around the world since the last 2 years, sir. So I'll quote the Honorable Finance Minister from a budget speech. She said, today we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. So clearly, sir, when she gave her budget speech, the Honorable Finance Minister was aware of global cues. But that was limited to mere rhetoric, sir, when it actually came to what was presented to Parliament. So the economic survey which came 2 days before was even more candid, sir. The economic survey said geopolitical fragmentation, commodity price volatility, and disrupted logistics are major risks to the Indian economy. Yet, sir, nothing was done by this government to hedge the economy and protect us from risks in all the financial papers that have been presented after that. So the entire budget was designed assuming that oil prices will remain at between $65 to $70 per barrel. So the situation in West Asia did not happen suddenly. Iran had been invaded earlier as well. There has been blockade by the Houthis in the Strait of Hormuz. So it's not something that was unpredictable or caught us unaware, sir. This tension in West Asia has been going on for a fair bit of time, sir. So Prime Minister Modi interestingly visited Israel 2 days before the bombing of Iran started. So now there is a question, sir. Did the Israelis inform Prime Minister Modi during his visit that after 2 days we are going to start bombing Iran? If they did not, sir, this is deceit of the highest order. Prime Minister Modi calls himself a Vishwaguru. He is visiting Israel. They did not even tell him they're planning to bomb Iran after 2 days. There is another possibility, sir, that the Israelis did inform Prime Minister Modi that, yes, Mr. Modi, in 2 days we are going to start bombing Iran.
How can they will?
In that case, sir, no, maybe there are only 2 possibilities. So it can either be east or it can be west. So the question then is, why was the narrative after Prime Minister Modi came back about some shiny medal that was given to him in Israel and not about the impending attack on Iran? When Prime Minister Modi came back from Israel, if he was informed of the attack on Iran, Why did he not start building up India's petroleum reserves? Why did he not start looking at how the LPG crisis might affect the country? Why was this country only talking about a fake medal that was given in Israel, and that was the only narrative that was going on, sir, at that point? And now suddenly after the budget, now suddenly the government's waking up, they're holding closed-door conference meetings with parties, they're not discussing in parliament, a suo motu statement is made without any questions, and then you're saying you're going to meet chief ministers. Parliament is in session. Where is the transparency, sir? First you were caught sleeping, and now you want to discuss everything in a closed room. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. Come to Parliament and discuss the West Asia crisis. Sir, some facts, some hard facts, sir. This is beyond politics, sir. India roughly imports about 88 to 90% of our crude oil requirement. So with the current rise in oil prices, sir, India's import bill is going to rise by 4 to 6 lakh crore rupees, sir. Fiscal deficit, the honorable member before me was talking about. This one data point, sir, you can imagine what difference it is going to have in India's fiscal deficit, sir. So coming to LPG, you know what is interesting, sir? The LPG subsidy allocation in this budget, in this year's budget, sir, has been cut by 27% from last year. Cut down by 27%. So interestingly, last year, when LPG subsidy budget allocation was done, the revised estimate, sir, was 66% higher than the budget estimate, which means this is way before any war started. Even at that point, the government realized, no, we have to spend more on LPG subsidies because that is a problem that the poor and the vulnerable are facing. 66% increase from budget estimate to revised estimate. And now with all the tension happening in West Asia, this year they've decided to cut the LPG allocation by 27%, the subsidy, sir. So the government has budgeted no money to help the poor and middle classes of this country when it comes to LPG. In fact, LPG cylinder prices were hiked by 60 rupees overnight. Today they're talking excise card. We want to protect the people. Pradhan Mantri Modi is going to break his fixed deposit and pay all this money from his pocket. Why were LPG prices increased by 60 rupees, sir? Why was the burden put on the consumer? Why couldn't the government absorb that? Problem is, sir, elections are coming. They don't have an option today but to absorb it. 29th April onwards, fuel prices are going to go up at the pumps. So the total fuel and petroleum subsidy in a country like India, sir, amounts to 2.6% of the total subsidy bill, sir. Of our entire subsidy bill in a country that imports 88% of crude, only 2.6% is allocated in the total subsidy for fuel and petroleum. Oil prices are historically high. Rupee has gone below 93. Our import bill is going up. Oil is more expensive. But the government is saying, आप आत्मनिर्भर बनो. LPG नहीं है, आप चूल्हा पे खाना बनाओ, आप आत्मनिर्भर बनो. Sir, petroleum reserves we were talking about. So this year the government slashed the strategic petroleum reserve allocation by 97%, sir. 97%. Even last year, sir, what was the total allocation for strategic petroleum reserve last year? The allocation was 6,000 crore. How much did we spend, sir? We spent only 1,000 crores. So only 70% of the budgeted amount was spent on strategic petroleum reserves last year, sir. Because of that, what is the state of the strategic petroleum reserve today? Let's be very clear about it. These are numbers. So currently we have 5.33 million metric tons across 3 facilities. 3 facilities in India, 5.33 lakh metric tons, sir. So these 3 sites are not at 100% capacity. They're only filled up to 64% of the total storage capacity. So this means that the government by itself, excluding the government itself, has only 9 days of crude oil supply left in its reserves, sir. 9 days of crude oil supply is all we have. So if we count the commercial storage of OMCs, we only have 74 days of storage capacity left with us. 74. Let's compare that with other oil importing countries, sir. Japan, 254 days of reserves. South Korea, 208 days of reserves. China, 200 days of strategic oil reserves. India, only 74 days of reserves, sir. So when the finance minister was replying in the Lok Sabha on the finance bill, obviously elections are coming. Everyone wants to show they care about Bengal after not caring about it for 5 years. Suddenly there's a renewed interest. But I have to appreciate something, sir. As a fellow student of Bangla, I appreciate that the finance minister tried to speak one sentence in Bangla during her speech. While it was to attack us, that's a different story altogether, but she attempted, sir. So I'm also someone who's been learning Bangla, sir. I haven't had a chance to speak in Bangla here for the last 2.5 years because I've also been practicing learning. But I'm delighted that the Honorable Finance Minister now is also a fellow learner of Bangla like me. The difference, sir, is she unfortunately and her party will never get a chance to represent Bengal here. Our party does, but that's a different story. So as a part of my learning of Bangla that has happened, sir, there is a few lines I wish to share with the Honorable Finance Minister which will enrich both of our knowledge, sir. So the first one, Banglar Manushe, and I apologize for my pronunciation, I'm a learner. The Finance Minister might be learning faster than I am. Banglar Manushe, Nyajo Prapto, 2 lakh koti takaro beshi ortho atke rakhe, tader bonchito koreche kendriyo sarkar. Translation, sir? The union government has deprived the people of West Bengal by withholding over rupees 2 lakh crores of our legitimate dues. Second, sir, Ashonna Nirbachane, BJP har nishchit. Eta bushte perei, Kendriyo Sarkar, Bangla ek prokar, oghoshito joruri obostha jari koreche. The union government has imposed an undeclared emergency in West Bengal because the BJP knows they're losing the upcoming state elections. So third, Kendriyo Sarkar, Deshe, Jwalani o LPG, Shankot, Aral Korar, Cheshta Korche. The union government is hiding the fuel and LPG crisis that is engulfing the entire country. And the fourth one, sir, very important. It's my favorite one, sir. Agami Chautha Mai, Mamta Bandyopadhyay, Chaturtho Barer Jonno, Banglar Mukhya Mantri Hoben. On the 4th of May, sir, Mamta Banerjee, whether they like it or hate it, doesn't matter, will become the Chief Minister of Bengal for a historic 4th term. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind, Jai Bangla.